we're going to look at how you get from the population, which is all of the people you're interested in, to the sample, which is the people that are actually giving you information or data. To do that, we're going to define two new terms. The first one is the sampling design. So the sampling design describes exactly how to choose that sample or the process or procedure we're going to use to take a sample from the population. In the previous video, we looked at an example using artifacts from an archaeological dig, and it stated that they chose 2% of the artifacts at random. So at random would be a sampling design. We also looked at an example where they chose every 6th person coming in the door at the mall. That would be another example of a sampling design. So we're going to take a look at that in more detail in a video coming up in the future, but I want to give you one more vocabulary word, and we're going to work with that one first. So once we have this sampling design, a plan for how to choose people, the sampling frame is going to be all the people that were selected using that process. Now, some of those people may decide not to participate, hang up the phone, walk around you, tear up your survey. But the sampling frame is at least who was chosen using that sampling design. All right, so let's look at some examples of this. You have 3 examples, one about Social Security, one about statistical software, and one about training dogs. There's a couple things you're going to go through and find. So you want to find the population of the sample. You also want to identify that sampling frame. So who did they try to get information from specifically? And then you're also going to define the intended population. So the intended population is maybe who they were really trying to make a statement about or get information about, but that might not be the same as who the actual people were that they pulled from. And then you want to give any concerns you might have about the quality of that sample. All right, so I would love for you to go ahead and pause the video and give these 3 a try, and then we'll come back and discuss them. Okay, so hopefully you gave that a try. Let's look at this first one. A political scientist wants to know how college students feel about the Social Security system. She obtains a list of 3,456 undergrads at her college and mails the questionnaire to 250 students selected at random. Only 104 questionnaires are returned. All right, so I'm going to start with the sample because I think the sample is usually the easiest thing to find since it has to somehow be fairly obviously stated in the problem. So here, the people we got data from are those 104 individuals who actually returned the questionnaire. Okay, the sampling, so I'm going to go backwards through the list. I'm going to go up to the sampling frame, which would be the next group up. So they actually asked 250 people. And that would be my sampling frame. They only got 104 back. That's why that's my sample, but they tried to get 250 people to answer. Now, where did those 250 people come from? They came from a list of 3,456 undergrads at this researcher's school. Okay. Now, is that actually the intended population? Is that who she really wants to talk about? Not really. If I look at the first sentence, it says a political scientist wants to know how college students feel about the Social Security system. So I think that her real intended population is all college students at all colleges. And that would be in the US since that's where the Social Security system is based. So we do have a mismatch here, and some of the people we're leaving out grad students because it looks like she only surveyed undergrads. We don't know a lot about the demographics of her school. A school where more students who may be lower income might be really concerned about Social Security in terms of retirement, whereas a school that maybe has a higher socioeconomic status might not be as concerned about that Social Security. So just taking students from her school is also going to cause some problems. And there are other issues with this sample as well, but that's just 2 of those. All right, the next one, a statistical software company is planning on updating version 8.1 of its software and wants to know what features are most important to users. The company's managers have the email addresses of 1,100 individuals, mostly faculty at universities, for who they have supplied free courtesy copies of version 8.1. They email these 1,100 individuals and ask them to complete a survey online, and a total of 186 complete the survey. So again, I'm going to start with my sample, and that'll be the 186 individuals who actually completed the survey. They sent the survey, though, to 1,100 people. So my sampling frame is the 1,100 people in the database, which is mostly faculty. They just spam them all. And so here's something really interesting. My actual population and my sampling frame are going to be the same here. So they were only taking names from that database. So that means my population, in effect, are those 1,100 names in the database. However, their intended population, my guess, is all users of this statistical software. So here's where they're going to run into a problem. If I'm getting that software for free, my expectations are not nearly as high as if I had to pay $500 for it or $1,500 for it. If I had to pay a fair amount of money for it, my expectations are going to be super high, right? That's that difference between using like a free trial version of a software versus paying for that full like Adobe Creative Suites or something like that. You know, if I'm using the free version, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. But if I paid money for it, I really would want that software to sing and dance. And so particularly if this company is really trying to stay solvent to make a profit, you want to talk to the paying customers, especially. Also, the faculty is a good group to talk to, but really talking to those paying customers is more helpful to them. All right, and then the last one on dog training. Marco is conducting an experiment on training certain breeds of dogs. He wants to know how long, on average, it would take to teach a Labrador to fetch an object. He gets a group of dogs to conduct his experiment. 5 of them are labs and 3 are Dalmatians. This has got to have some problems, but let's start with the sample. I have the 5 labs and the 3 Dalmatians. I'm going to skip the sampling frame and actual population for a second. The intended population is all Labradors. Right, that's pretty clear. He wants to know how long it would take to teach a Labrador to fetch. So that's kind of the group that he's most interested in. What happened though, we don't really know where he got these 8 dogs from. So the actual population in the sampling frame is uncertain. I mean, my best guess is that these are probably dog owners that Marco knows, and he talked them into letting him borrow their dogs. So this is definitely going to have some issues. I mean, maybe Labs and Dalmatians have similar temperaments and can be trained similarly, but that has to be established. And so you're going to have a really hard time in this experiment using these results to apply them to labs without a lot more work. So there's a lot of problems with this particular one.